So now we're ready to start the haircut. We've combed it out, we've draped our clients, and we know what tools we're using. As I had initially said before, Ange, we're using an adjustable clipper. This one is it's called the Envy by Andis. What I'm going to start doing is actually, when I start to cut, I have to recognize that the clipper is at the highest extension or the lowest extension. I do that by adjusting the blade, right? So it's either the highest extension or the lowest extension. When I put the guide on, I have several options. I have the option of having the guide on, so it's going to be longer. I'm not going to cut it as short as I did with the naked blade. And I can go up and down, highest and lowest. That gives me 1, 2 options, 3, 4 options. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so the difference is when you have the metal blade, there's no adjusting. You're just going to shave it off to that one height, that's it. But the adjustable clipper is great for people that are learning how to cut here because it has parameters and it gives you options. So you understand that you're not going to shave off somebody's head. And you better understand the different levels and the heights of the fading and blending and what have you, okay? So to start off, Akeem's here, how do you want it? Really short or bald on the sides? Akeem?
Really short.
Really short. Initial consultation in hairdressing is essential, giving your client what they want. Initial consultation in barbering is just the same. It's no different. That's the one thing that's synonymous. You have to ascertain exactly what your customer wants, even if he's 12 or 5 or how old are you, buddy?
13.
13. I didn't know you. Is that a mustache? We're going to have to shave that off. We're going to have to shave that off. But no matter how old the client is, you have to give them the power that they understand. We're going to give you exactly what you want. So I don't want to take it too short. So he said he didn't want it that short. So we're going to go with a #1 guide.
What does it, is it important to use a guide?
You see, what's happened over the years is clients walk into barbershops and salons and they say, give me a #1 or a #2 guide. All these clippers are different sizes. Okay. So if you go to an Andis clipper or an Oster clipper or any other clipper out there, it's not the same #1 as this. So if Akeem goes into the barbershop down the street and requests a #1 guide and the guy puts on a #1 and he shaves his head off, then he's going to be like, oh, that's not what I wanted. Understanding your tools, understanding your guide heights are also essential, okay? So the guides, you have to know exactly what you're talking about to be able to translate that to your client, okay? Okay? And we're going to start with that line on this side. That line is going to be just above your client's eyes, okay? You're going to use the face as a landmark for the majority of your cut. So for this cut, for Akeem, we're going to make our line start here. And we're going to follow that all the way around to the back, okay? It's going to be symmetrical and balanced based on your client's head, all right? So let's begin. With a #1 guide placed on, the Andis Envy, I'm going to have it on the lowest extension to make my first line. Now, going against the grain is where I want to go initially. Make sure I go against the grain. With the grain and against the grain terminology that's commonly used in a barbershop, against the grain means you're going against the direction in which the hair is growing, okay? So I'm going to brush it out first. And I'm using my hand here just to stretch the skin just a tad, going against the grain. So what we want to do is make that first line going against the grain, applying a little bit of pressure, but constantly brushing after we cut. Now, why are we brushing? We're brushing specifically to brush the already cut hair out of the way. But as I can see, as I'm starting to get into this, this line here, I can see we can go shorter than this, okay? Because I'm not cutting off a great deal of hair. So what I want to do is remove the guide. Now, it was on the lowest extension. What I want to do is have it and extend it to the highest extension and then continue in the same direction as I was doing earlier. So I'm going to continue to brush again. And now I can get right down there and you can hear it. As much as it's important to go against the grain, it's also important to listen while you're cutting because you can use that skill as well, your sense of hearing, to hear exactly what's being cut and how short it's being cut.
Yeah, from the sound.
You can even hear it, right? Okay. Absolutely. So as you can see, we're going around Akeem's hair against the grain and I'm making this first line.
Why is it important to go against the grain and not with the grain?
Very good question, Ange. Going against the grain takes the hair off. Going with the grain blends the hair in.
Okay.
Now that's a, you know, it's all subjective because when you're dealing with different hair types, the rules change. So if I'm dealing with somebody with European hair or Asian hair, it's not applicable because their hair doesn't behave the way African hair does. Okay. African hair and the characteristics of African hair are very unique unto itself. If you're able to cut somebody with African hair, you can cut anybody anywhere because African hair exhibits very unique characteristics unlike any other hair type. Okay? So understanding why it behaves the way it does is very essential to being able to procure a proper haircut. That's why Hispanic and Latino barbers are some of the best in the world because they cut a wide variety of hair types. They cut Puerto Rican guys that are European or Negro Puerto Ricans that look like me and you. So they're able to do any spectrum of a fade with any specific hair type. These things are not taught in Canada or North America, so it's very different. So now we've seen here, we can actually, it's very discernible that the line goes from the front to the back. You can see a difference between where the hair's been cut and where it's not been cut. So this is our first step of where the fade begins. Now the fade lives where that line is.
Okay.
Okay, some actual barbershops or salons will let their customers leave looking like this, assuming this is a fade. And that's $30 to $40 later, okay? So this is more of like a $15 or a $20 haircut depending on what barbershop you go to, just based on the fade. As I had said earlier, this line here, we want to get rid of this, Ange. So where the line is, that's where you want to get rid of. Once you're able to get rid of this line, you've actually been able to accomplish a fade. Many of the gentlemen that I teach and the young ladies that I take the seminar, this is the hardest part of the fade. A one level or everything the same height with an outline is very basic. This is tough. So I used a number, actually I used the naked blade with the highest extension against the grain to make my first line. So now I'm going to use a number 1 guide on the lowest extension going against the grain to fade. To fade, you're using a lot of wrist motion, okay? A lot of the motion comes in your wrist. Yeah, just like wax on, wax off, up, and when he's painting the Karate Kid, it's the same thing. As you're the karate barber, doing the exact same thing. You gotta have that wrist motion, okay? So the wrist motion is essential. Lightly feathering, going against the grain in that motion. Now it looks like you're rubbing the client's hair, right? But what professional barbers do in slow motion, we start at the base, where we can't cut anything necessarily, moving up towards the line, and again you can hear it, and then we go right back here. Okay, you're getting close. You can hear where the hair is cutting. But in slow motion, it's going to take forever for me to fade. So what we do a lot is, we do that, right? And that's where we procure the fade. Okay? And again, you're brushing to brush the already cut hair out of the way. That's what creates the fade. Is everything okay, Akeem? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we can slowly see it come into life here. Now, an average haircut will take about 15 minutes in a busy barber shop. On a Saturday, you're not going to see a guy taking an hour and a half, depending on what type of service he's getting. An average haircut runs between $20 to $25. In salons, what do you guys charge for a haircut, Ange?
We don't really have barbers.
Oh, no? What's the average charge for a barber's or a short men's haircut in a salon throughout Ontario?
$35 and up.
30, 35 bucks?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So for us, 30, 35 bucks is a design, a shave, a cut, and all that stuff. So that's what we're looking at. Designs range from $50 to $80, depending on how intricate the design, right? So I do portraits myself.
Okay.
From Obama, Che Guevara, pictures, horses, logos, all that stuff is done.
So you say like a tattoo design?
It's like a hair tattoo. That's what they call it, the hair tattoo stuff. Barbers, we just call it designs, hair designs. Okay. So going with the grain, I'm almost finished with this section, and I'm almost finished with this part of the fade. It's a Marriott back and forth, with and against, constantly brushing and combing to get that perfect blend and that fade in. Now the difference between a faux hawk and a mohawk is a mohawk is just a straight line like Mr. T has, but the faux hawk encompasses the fade and the blend within the hair as well too, okay?
Okay.
So, Keem, we've got him here. So, the last step I'm going to do before I get the fade there is get rid of that last line in here, okay? So, naked blade, highest extension against the grain. Perfect. So I'm just going to spend a little bit more time getting rid of that, and then that's it. Then we're good. Angela, could you pass me the face brush in my kit, please? Now the difference is that black brush there at the base is a body brush. With the white, it's got the black at the base. No. Right on the top shelf there, that's the one. Now that's a body brush. What's the difference? A body brush and a face brush. So if I'm going to use this body brush, we're going to dust off Akeem's neck and his shoulders. I'll let you take that because I'm busy with the fade here. So I'll let you
What's
dust
the
off.
name of this brush again?
I call it a body brush.
Is that the real name?
Nope, the difference is, and I discern the difference between this is what I'm going to use on his body and his neck,
Okay.
right? So I'm going to use it on his body and his neck. So
And what's the name of this brush?
this is it's a club brush, and I use it specifically for brushing his hair.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll let you dust him off there. Not on his face, no, not on his face, just on his neck. There you go, and you can brush it. Okay. Perfect. And now we're actually going to go to a face brush. Okay, now the face brush is right behind those guides there. That's the one. That's the one. Yep. And we're going to brush his face off.
So this is a face brush.
Okay. Okay.
So it's important to have the right brush. This is a body brush.
Right.
And this is a face brush.
Now, what the thing with that body brush is, guys take it and they brush off their arms and their legs. Why would you want to put that on your face after that, right? Make sense?
It's important to have different brushes.
It's a very important.
Body brush and face brush.
Every good barber should have one.
Okay.
So now when you go to the barber shop now, you're going to be watching for all these things. Are they using 70% alcohol? Does he have a face brush and a body brush? Is he using all the things necessary to keep me clean and protect me from any bacteria or pathogens? That's the first thing you're going to ask yourself. No matter how good of a barber he is, those things are going to be essential. Okay?
So this alcohol 70%.
70% alcohol. Body brush?
Body brush, face brush.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I think this is a fade. I'm almost positive that's a fade. So we got a great fade going on here.
This is a beautiful fade.
Okay, so this is a fade. The faux hawk, if you notice the hawk part, I haven't actually touched at all, right? That's not necessary quite as yet. But now we're going to look at actually taking the faux hawk down a little bit, trimming it up, and then we're going to move on to the outline.